This episode of Beyond the Tube is proudly sponsored by Plan Tracker, supporting the NDIS community through connection, education, and guidance to help families get the most from their plans. Welcome back to Beyond the Tube. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by the wonderful Trent from Care Agency Services. He's going to talk to us about what his company can provide to members on the NDIS and the general public. I'm going to throw over to Trent and get him to do a little bit of an intro.
Hi, Fee. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
I'm
So
really
good.
excited to be on the podcast.
Good. We're so excited to have you.
So as you said, my name's Trent. I'm from Care Agency Services. We are a temporary staffing provider. What we do is we have our own pool of support workers that we hire, we vet and we train, and then we lend them out to providers when they have gaps in their roster. This is like emergency shift fill, long-term, short-term rostering, build-out, and expansion support mostly. So that's what we do. We fill the gaps. We're the safety net.
That's really amazing. And from my perspective, what I see is that there's something that sets you apart from everybody else because you are there as an emergency support.
Yeah, I like to call us the safety net because we're there to support providers so that they're not like cancelling services or compromising care with their participants or having to send somebody in to do a double shift when they've just finished an 8 hour and they have to go back and they're probably fatigued. We're that backup support ready to go to help out.
It is so niche and what a great idea. Like, so smart. Such a great idea
Thank you. It wasn't mine.
to sort of build that out a little bit. There are families that would be in those positions. I'm thinking as Christmas is approaching quickly,
Yes.
there's a lot of stuff happening in this sort of final quarter of the year. I know families struggle on any given day to get a qualified support worker,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it's an industry-wide issue. Well, how do you find the right support workers to be able to fill these gaps?
It's a bit of a long-winded answer. Our job is to have staff. We're always recruiting staff. We always have candidates ready to go. But we're also very strict and specific on the type of staff that we will employ. We have to do that. You know, we're a staffing agency. We're lending our staff out to people last minute. A lot of the time, our staff are going into environments they're not familiar with. They might be getting a very brief handover. We have to rely on our recruitment processes and the types of skill sets and qualifications that we look for to feel confident lending them out to people in those kind of last minute situations or in general. We're very specific. We only hire support workers that are qualified. We only hire support workers that have a minimum continuous pay experience. It's really important. Those are the people we can rely on that have that skill set and knowledge to be able to work effectively. They do our internal training process as well, which is a regular training process too. That's how we have the qualified support workers ready to go. It's our
Yes.
job and we're very specific about what we look for.
Can people come directly to Care Agency Services? We have our own support worker for Ezra, and she's amazing, but she unfortunately had an accident earlier in the year. It was horrendous for her and her family.
Is she okay?
She is, thankfully. She actually broke her heel, which is a super, super rare injury. She fell backwards down her stairs at home and broke her heel.
Sounds so painful.
How she's even walking, I don't even know. Like, just a superwoman. I've got the phone call from her as she's sitting at John Hunter Hospital
Yeah.
in an ambulance bay waiting to be seen by the specialist, saying, I don't think I'm going to be able to work next week.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Obviously, that turned into about 12 weeks because she had to have surgery. It was a very, very bad injury. We had to sort of scramble to try and find someone, and thankfully we did. I didn't know about Care Agency Services at that time, but would that be something that families reach out directly to you to
Yeah,
get
they can.
support? Amazing.
We generally partner with providers, but the company's been around for 14 years. And when NDIS was created, we were already there. So we became registered NDIS providers as well. We can provide those direct supports to families if they need it. We can be a backup partner for them if they need it. And we can also partner with families' providers as well to be their backup if they need to.
That's really good, and I feel that's really useful because like you pointed out at the beginning, this is what you do emergency support. When people like, "Oh, I need somebody," if someone's called in sick or
Yeah.
someone's not gonna be available even, next week or the week after, how do I plan for this? It's
Yeah.
so important to have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's forceful on, the families as well. That's where I say we're a safety net, we take that load off of people.
It's so important because you're already dealing with so much medically with your person, whoever that is. Obviously, for us, it's our child.
Yeah.
But when things happen that are unavoidable, as a report worker, Beck, she didn't intend to go and hurt herself. I'm positive if she'd go back in time, it would not have happened because it was such a huge impact on her entire life. The reality for us, obviously, after making sure that she was okay, was what are we going to do and how are we going to manage that?
Yeah.
It took a couple of weeks to get everything in place, but I imagine if we had have been in connection with you guys, that would have been way quicker. We probably would have been talking a few days, not a
Yeah.
few weeks.
Absolutely. Sometimes it can even be a few hours depending on the
Wow.
needs. One of the things that we specialize in is emergency last minute shift fill. A support worker calls up sick or they don't show up to their shift. We get that phone call and we try as hard as we can to get somebody there who's suitable as quickly as possible.
Is there much choice for us? We picked Beck to be our support worker for Ezra, in that we sort of looked at the type of person that we wanted, someone who's similar to me, I guess, who's a mum and someone who kind of gets that caring role. Beck's clinically trained as well. She's an ex-midwife and nurse. She is the best. Sorry, you can't have her. She's ours. And I'm very protective of her. Ask
Fair
my
enough. She
husband, he will
sounds like
tell you.
she sounds like an amazing support worker.
She is not only amazing sport worker, she's just an amazing human.
Yeah.
She treats Ezra as one of her kids, and she often gets that, "Oh, is this your little boy?" She's like, "No, I'm his carer. I look after
Yes.
him." She has a very good connection with him, and he just really gelled with her. For me, if I was having someone step into her role temporarily, I would want someone who has the same or similar knowledge. Most of our listeners and viewers are parents of people or carers of people who are tube fed. So we obviously have that extra layer of people needing to be comfortable to administer tube feeding.
And trained. Yeah.
That's right. Obviously, we can go, well, these are the blends that we use, or this is the formula that we use, or this is the pump that we use, and here's what we do. But it's only going to be a very brief training
Yeah.
session. So they kind of need to hit the ground running. How does that factor into when
What we
you
do.
find, yeah.
Yeah. It's
Mm.
a really great question when we're recruiting. We have the qualification requirements and the experience requirements before we even interview somebody. So we already know that that's ticked off. We then, as we're going through the recruitment process and the onboarding stage, we catalog skill sets. We keep that within our records so that if we need somebody who is PEG trained, for instance, we can look through our records and go, okay, well, in this area we have these people who are PEG trained. These people have done it recently. These people did it a few years ago, so they might need a quick refresher.
Yeah.
But we're able to pull those pieces of information really quickly to make sure that we can have the person that has the right clinical skill set. Then, from a personality kind of gelling and connection, factor, we know all of our staff. We're not like a platform where anybody can sign up. You can have 10,000 workers who are signed up and we don't know them all. We know all of our staff personally. We talk with all of them every day, every shift that they complete. We review the case notes so we know what they did. It's a very personalized connection that we have with our staff. If you need somebody who's a mother or a father or somebody who we've had working for a while with somebody who has those kinds of high intensity care needs,
Mhm.
high clinical skill sets, we can go straight off the top of our head, oh, I know this worker would be suitable. And oh, by the way, I also know off the top of my head they have the availability to do it.
That's so good. Again, I feel like that is super niche in the industry to know how to find those people, but know that you've also got personal connections with all of them to ensure that you can do that profile matching and skill matching. So clever.
He can also say to you, hey, look, we're really sorry. We won't have somebody who can do this. We're not going to do that an hour before the shift starts. We're going to go, no, already, or we've asked and we know. So we can advise you that it's not something we can help with. But hey, we're well connected. We know X, Y, and Z people who might be able to help in this instance as well.
So good. And that transparency and honesty is really important because when you're in that moment as the family or the person who needs the care, very
It's
stressful,
so
very, very
stressful. Yeah,
stressful. And you just want someone to be able to go, yes, we can help you. Or no, no, we can't help you, but don't worry. We're not going to just leave you. We're going to do everything we can and exhaust all our options to
absolutely.
try and get you some support,
Absolutely.
which is great,
We're not going to sit there and leave you hanging till the last minute. Yeah.
which is amazing. Do you just cover New South Wales?
No, I love our story actually. The company is 14 years old. It was originally Queensland based. It was a father and son team. Our managing director, Ray, had a business doing a lot of recruitment for not for profits. Worked in the space already. CAS got created because they were actually asked by some of these companies that they were doing executive recruitment for if they would do temporary staffing as well. And that's how the business grew. I find the company expanded down here into New South Wales nearly 2 years ago now. That's where I came on board.
That's awesome. So it's Queensland, New South Wales, ACT.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Often our kids have got other needs. They may need somebody to take them to appointments, to prepare food for them. They may need somebody to help them toileting and all of those kinds of things. Part of that skill database, does the family give you profile of this is what we need and then you go and try and match that? Is that how it works?
Absolutely. If we're partnering with somebody directly, like an NDIS direct client, we go through the process the same way you would with a provider. Interview to find out what the needs are, what sort of supports you're looking for, personality requirements, what days and times you need, and then we look for somebody that best matches. And we're happy to do things like send families little profiles of the staff so they can have a little read through and do phone conversations and make sure that it matches the support worker matches the family's requirements the same way you would if you were doing it on your own. It's a very um, personal experience selecting somebody who's right to care for your family member.
Yes.
So that needs to be nurtured. I think that's really important. I had that same situation with my own mother, and that's very close to my heart in the business, and it's something that we really try and focus on in those one-on-one connections. In a business to business connection where we're supporting a provider's clients by lending them staff, that's up to the provider. And so
Of course.
we can give them as much or as little information as they want or need.
That's so great. I guess as an extension to that, what qualities or training do you think are essential when you're actually going to find a support worker for medically complex kids or even adults?
All of our workers have to have a working with children. That's not negotiable in our business.
Hmm.
Even if they're not ever going to work with children, they have to have one.
Yep.
So we
Okay.
can tick that off in the background. We know
Hmm.
we don't need to sift through our files. We know everybody's got it and we know it's up to date because our system flags when it's not.
Hmm.
It's then personality and skill set matching for us. In the instance where somebody requires peg feeding, for instance, we are never going to recommend a staff member who doesn't have that training or experience ready to go. What would happen in that situation is the person's going to turn up to your home and they're going to go, I don't know how to do that. And you're going to be sitting there going, I'm back in that stressful situation that I thought I was out of.
That I thought I was getting out of. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't want to put you in that situation.
Very, very true. And look, I don't want to bag anybody or talk poorly about anybody, but I would be fairly confident to say there are people out there who have been
Absolutely.
in that situation where they're like, what do you mean you don't know? That's like a top of the list requirement. How do you not know how to do that?
Yes, absolutely.
You're not going to work for us. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure there is too. It's not a comfortable situation to be in. And I always think back to I would feel like in that
Mm,
situation with my own family. The training is essential. I think personality is really important as well, which is something that we get to experience during the interview and recruitment process.
Hmm.
We're going through that stage in the onboarding process, we're engaging with the people that are potentially being employed by us. And so we can assess, are they quiet? Are they very energetic? Are they extroverted people? It's the same thing as a clinical skill. We know who we think would be suitable in that situation. Those are the people that we would recommend for supports.
Yeah, that's great. That's really, really good. Do you have any tips that you could provide to anyone listening or watching today if they are starting support worker service for the
Yeah,
very first time? How do you find the right support worker? What are the key things that people should be looking for? Because I know when we did it for the first time, it was really, really scary. I'm going to be trusting this person to drive a vehicle with my child
yeah,
on board, and I'm not going to be there
yeah,
to go and advocate for him at appointments. Everybody that's in his medical and clinical care team,
yeah,
this person was going to be doing that in my absence. Basically, needed someone to act as me
yeah,
whilst I was working.
absolutely.
Is there certain things that you recommend to people that you're like, you really need to check these things?
Yes, there is. You should always check for experience as one of the number one questions. What does your experience look like? Can you give me some examples of situations or relationships or scenarios where you've worked similarly to what required for my family? Professional boundaries is such an important thing. It's a thing that can so easily be blurred in the support worker field. Sometimes takes time to reveal itself whether the professional boundaries are being met or whether they're being blurred. It can be accidental. It's important for those boundaries to be set up and for families to recognize somebody who will meet professional boundaries when they're going through the process of onboarding somebody. You want to make sure that, particularly in situation with young children, it's such a nerve-wracking situation to allow somebody else to be the carer for your child when you're not there. So you need to be able to trust them, but you need to be able to trust that they will adhere to your professional boundaries that you're setting for them as well. That can be simple things from, not sharing personal phone numbers in situations with people that require care, not sharing social media, or it can be more in-depth personal boundaries like not sharing your political or religious beliefs because they can be triggers for people sometimes. Always check for experience first and training as well. I do have a side note. We know what the forecast for staffing over the next 5 years looks like, and it's not great. We're staring at a really large deficit of support workers over the next 5 years, and it's scary.
Wow.
We're going to have a lot of situations where people who require care or families of people who require care are going to be put in situations where they're probably going to have people that they're not familiar with, potentially not going to be engaging somebody in long-term support just because of the deficit that's in industry or that we're heading toward. We also need to have some leeway as we move forward in doing trials as well. Let's see how they go over the next 2 weeks and then make a decision.
Yes. I know for us, when we were looking for a support worker, we had engaged a company. We had a couple of candidates come, and Beck was one of them. They met with Ezra and we had a chat with them. Generally, you get a feel for people straight away.
Yeah,
And whilst the other candidates were not bad, they were nice people, they were not incompetent, Beck had more skills.
yeah,
She had better connection with Ezra. She was more agile than some of the other applicants that were of an older age. At the time, we were living in a house with quite a steep driveway,
yeah,
which
okay.
some of them had indicated that,
You hit me in the
yeah,
feels there. That's the
could
house
be
that I live in.
difficult. How are you going to carry Ezra up the driveway? Or what if
Absolutely.
he's got a bike
Yeah.
or a scooter or something? They're just such simple things. For us, we were looking for someone that was more like an auntie, that vibe. We weren't looking for another grandparent.
And
We needed someone who wanted to nurture him because he still needs that. I mean, don't we all? But like, he really, really needed that. I think we do all need that to some degree.
I find in situations with children that can be easier. You can find that person easier in situations where children require care than you can in situations where adults require care because people who are often willing to work with children are naturally nurturers.
Yeah, definitely agree. When you're looking for someone for a kid, you want someone who you feel comfortable in your home as well. And for us, both my husband and I, majority of the time, work at home.
Yeah,
And the times that we have Beck as our support work, we're here. So she generally takes him out and does the appointments and does all of those things, but we're home. But it's again that thing around boundaries, I think, is something that you forget about, not just professional boundaries, but just boundaries around how do you want us to interact with you when I'm sitting here right now as we speak? I'm sitting at my work desk
yeah,
in the dining room of our home. My kitchen is just over here. Our lounge room's just behind me. How do you have Ezra here
yeah,
with his support worker, but I also need to be working? So how does that work? And what is that dynamic? How do you want him to interact? And I'll often just say to Beck, sorry, I really have to get something done, or I'm jumping into a meeting or whatever it is. And she'll be like, yeah, no problems. Like we'll go out, or, she'll go and sit with him and play a game with him, or they might do Play-Doh or watch something on the telly or go up to his bedroom or
that's
whatever. So
perfect. Yeah.
we've got that really open communication.
Yes, yeah. Can I ask, when you first started getting care for Ezra, did you find
Mm.
it hard to let somebody else provide the care in a different way to what you would do?
Yes, at the time he was being fed via an NG tube, and the feeds, which we fed via a bolus feed. For those that don't know, it's a syringe that is connected to the NG tube, and you literally hold it. You just hold it and the fluid runs down. It used to just make him sick. We would feed him and he would just vomit pretty much every feed. He was so small, and, he hadn't even turned 2 yet, when this all started, and that was really hard to have to see him unwell
Yeah,
and have to try and step back. As a mum of 4 herself, as an ex-nurse and midwife, she had no problem. It didn't bother at all. She
yeah,
didn't care. It was no problem. She just would clean him up, clean the vomit up, carry on, get him changed, do whatever, no problems. But I would imagine, should we have chosen somebody else, that could have been very different. And that's not necessarily something you think of when you're interviewing somebody or when you're having somebody come and witness what you're doing, or,
absolutely.
have a little trial with you. You forget to point some of those things out. For other people, that could have been like, no, no,
Yeah,
that's not for me. I can't deal with that.
yeah, true.
That's okay too.
Yeah.
We just hit it really lucky.
That-
We just
I mean,
found the right person.
that's like the other stressful part with giving over the care of somebody that you love into somebody else is your standards are always going to be set at what you would expect of yourself in those situations. And that can be, large standards, or it can sometimes be really little standards as well.
Totally.
Somebody else
Yes.
might have a slightly different
Yes. Yes. Yeah,
expectation.
exactly. Exactly right. You have to hand over those reins of control. I'm a control freak.
Me too. Absolutely.
That's just my personality around that NDIS piece, which obviously you would deal with all the time. Lots of people that I speak to who have got tube fed kids or neurodiverse kids seem to have this preconceived conception that they are not allowed or they cannot request for support work through NDIS. They can't even ask for it, which obviously I know is wrong.
Yeah.
Ezra has a support worker
Yeah.
and has done for almost, well, actually, I think pretty much to the day, 2 years we've had Beck. So obviously that's not true. In our many conversations on the podcast with Belle Kelly, that this all comes down to, I know,
Love
don't
her
we
to
just
death.
love,
She's the
we
greatest
love
person.
Belle. We are huge advocates of what Belle does, and we just love having her on the channel so much. So one big thing that she says all the time is it comes down to the reporting.
Yes,
Do you agree with that statement?
I do. First, let me start by saying, if not for that reason, what else would it be? If not for the
Well,
fact
that's true.
that my family member needs a support worker to help them,
Yes.
what else
Yes.
is it for?
I think people think that because they have a kid, and let's talk about under fives, let's talk preschool
Yeah,
age, that they think that the government or the NDIS body, which is the government, is going to push back and say, well, no, that child is your responsibility. You are the parent. Send them to preschool or send them to daycare or,
Yes,
and that is so not true. Some preschools and some daycares will allow you to bring your support worker into the business and
yeah,
assist them with what they need to do as well. So there's many facets to support work for young under 5-year-olds. Let's just talk about under fives.
absolutely. I think that Bella's absolutely right. It will always come down to reporting and making sure you have your correct assessments done by the correct people and the report all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. Even though, you know, the head of the NDIA said the other week that we don't read them because they're too long. Let's not get into that.
Seriously? We spend so much public money getting these
Yeah.
reports done and you don't read them?
It was a
What?
as far as I'm concerned, that was a very big faux pas. But anyway,
Yes, yes. We could talk about that for
we
hours,
can
I
talk about that for hours,
suspect.
and we should. That's a conversation we should have Belle here for because
We should. We need a round table with that one. We can really unpack that.
there are certain situations where the NDIA will go. We don't even need to look at that. Just from the diagnoses alone, we know that this person is going to need X, Y, and Z. So we're not even going to look at any of the other reports. Not going to look at OT. We're not going to look at dietitian or speech or anything like that. It's sad that that's the case, but it is the case. There are situations where their boxes flag, oh, this is a cross and this is a tick. So we're actually going to have to look a lot deeper and make a judgment call. The problem that I have, and look, I've never worked for the NDIA. I don't know the ins and outs of doing an assessment, but the problem I have always seems to come down to an opinion. It's always something's an opinion that then dictates how somebody can live and how they cannot live. In an initial assessment where you know that your family member needs somebody there to support them, and then a single person's opinion is, well, we don't agree with that. It makes it so hard. And it's so in a situation where it's uncomfortable. You don't know if you're doing everything right. And look, let's put it this way. My mother needs care. I work in this industry. And I was still sitting there saying to myself, I don't know if what we're doing is right. I don't know if what we're doing is got to get the things that I know that she needs.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, Fee. NDIS is amazing. What it has done
It is.
is amazing.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
was so required and it's so necessary and it benefits so many people. But there's red tape and bureaucracy that just make it so much harder for people when it doesn't.
I agree. And I think the unfortunate thing is, as the family member who is usually, we talk about this quite a lot, there's a medical person.
Yeah.
You're the medical person for and the advocate for your mum, and
Yeah.
that is me for Ezra.
Yeah.
And generally this is the way in most families that this is run. One person kind of is the crux and then everybody else supports that person around it. You have to be prepared to advocate,
Yes.
advocate.
Yeah.
And I know that that word gets overused in this space, but it is the truth. I have mentioned this before on the podcast that I had a nurse that used to come out to see Ezra from our LAC. And she used to say to me, I don't know how Ezra gets so much funding. I don't know how he gets it. I have kids that are way worse than him, and he gets all this funding. How he gets all the funding is because I spend hours and hours and hours putting together reports. I go to all kinds of different people to get good quality reports.
Yep.
I write reports. I was getting my mum, as at the time was caring significantly. My mum's in her mid 70s.
Yeah. Wow.
How can she be relied upon to do that? She's a grandparent. That shouldn't be her job.
It's true, but it also puts stress on you as the mother. Oh,
Percent.
yeah.
Yeah. And everybody else. And how we would get reports from everybody. We would do carer impact statements. I would do tables. I can't imagine there isn't a report or a letter or anything that I have not obtained in order to make sure that Ezra's NDIS plan is as comprehensive and as specific as it possibly can be. But that is because I have spent so much time
Yeah.
working on it to get him the best possible care. I understand that not everybody is capable physically, mentally, they just can't do it. I totally understand that. If you can't do it, find someone to do it for you.
Yeah.
Find someone who you trust,
Yeah.
who you can get to help you do that. Because as we know with Belle, she's a great advocate of this kind of thing. Find someone like that who can advocate for you.
That's right. There are businesses and companies and companies that don't charge as well that will advocate
Yes,
for you in these situations. But I have to
that's
start
right.
wondering, is this just the new norm now? Like, is the new norm now going to be that people have to put an application in? That first application will always come back without what you were hoping or expected or need for. And then is the process going to be review, or even tribunal? Like, is that just something to, as a community, shift our mindset now to say to ourselves, guess what? No matter what I do, I'm going to have to fight for what I need moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
It certainly feels like that.
Yeah.
It certainly feels like it'll be interesting to see what changes come into place when Thriving Kids comes in next year
Yeah. I'm really
and how
interested in
that
that, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
and how that will impact. And look, we hope for the best that it will be a positive change and things will be it'll help. There still isn't enough information out there yet as to how it's going to be
Never.
delivered,
There
rolled
never
out.
is.
Never is, never is. But hopefully that will take some of the stress and some of the burden
Yeah.
off having to do all of this stuff. That would be really great if that is the case. That will really, really help families, to not have to go and get all these capacity assessments done and go to an OT and spend all this money and collate all this information if they can just produce something from their GP instead that says, these are the markers this child has hit. We believe this is what, or what, I mean, look, I'm
Yeah.
surmising. I actually don't know what the
No.
requirements are. They have talked about GPs being able to be the ones to sort of refer them to Thriving Kids, but until we see the legislation, obviously, we're not going to know what the parameters are. But if that is the case, that will really shift things as long as it doesn't drop things off like support work, because there are lots of kids that need that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that, I mean, maybe this is just wishful thinking, but I do think that the separation will create groups of advocates that are just focused on, young people's needs. And same thing with providers. It will create more closer groups of people who are just focused um, on kids or people that meet the scheme requirements. And when more groups of people who are focused on one thing get together, that's when more education gets shared, more knowledge gets shared, more advocacy, stronger advocacy can happen. I don't know if it's wishful thinking, but that is a silver lining I can see.
Mm, mm. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And my thought process has kind of gone down the same track as well.
Yeah.
If delivered well, I'm not going to say they're going to hit all the markers because I think these things don't generally get delivered that way. And we all already know that. But if it can be delivered in a way that's reasonable,
Mm,
it could be very successful. It could
yeah.
really change things for families. And ultimately, that's all we really care about is that families are going to be looked after and the kids that need the support are going to get it, hopefully without so much hoop jumping, which
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That would be so great. Now, I want to ask you one more question
Sure.
before we wrap up. Tell me the biggest mistake that families make when choosing a support worker.
Well, that's a good question. Mistake that families make when choosing a support worker might be, no, that's a really tricky question.
I love that I've stumped you.
I can only draw from personal experience, but whenever I think about somebody caring for my family, my mother, for instance, I think about somebody who cares the same way that I would. The hot water goes on times, cold water goes on so many times. It's almost, this is such a dirty word, but it's almost a micromanagement mind. So
So
I
true.
I think about somebody doing exactly what I would do. That can sometimes be the biggest mistake that people make selecting a support worker, is their expectation that somebody will do everything the exact way that they would do it, which I think is why it's so important when selecting a long-term support worker to help you
Mhm.
make sure that you're checking for those skill sets and experience and past experience on past jobs and things like that. In that instance, you can say to yourself, well, look, they might not care the exact same way that I would, but I can trust their training and experience that they will care as that person needs them to care. In
For
saying
sure.
that, I do also think that, in some situations, in urgent situations, sometimes you just need somebody there to help as best they can. But we also need to allow that to happen when it's necessary.
Definitely. Caring differently doesn't mean caring wrong.
That's right. Yeah,
So it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's just doing it different to how we would do it.
absolutely.
And that's okay. But sometimes that is hard to let go of. I get that.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with ongoing training. In fact, it's important that everybody has ongoing training. So if there's a situation that you're observing where somebody is not doing it the same way that you would be doing it, and you recognize that it might not actually be providing the best care possible, then training is great.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Just been so, so good. And what I like to try and do, or what my aim to do on this podcast, is to give families practical advice, practical skills, practical support, so that it's not sitting at home going, I can't find any info. There is no information on what I'm going through. There's no literature. There's nothing to watch. There's no YouTube. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can fill the holes in this. Support work is so darn important for so many families. I don't think people are accessing it enough, and I think they should be. And I specifically think that with your experience and what Care Agency Services is doing is filling those holes that families experience through no fault of their own. Like you say, people don't show up, people get sick, people go on holidays, people have accidents. There are lots and lots and lots of variables that happen. Or you might find that, you know what, that person just wasn't the right fit, but now I've got a gap that
Yeah.
I've got to fill
Yeah.
whilst I find the right person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And having a business that actually does that. Well, to my knowledge, I don't know anybody else that just has people available, like all over the place.
We are we're taking the stress off, number one. That's the most important thing that we try and do as a business. We take the stress off of families. We take the stress off of businesses as well. We want to make sure that continuity of services, continuity of care is there. And with the standards that we set, we want to make sure that the best person for the scenario, or the most qualified or the most trained, is available.
Thank you so much for your time, Trent.
For having
It's just
me.
been great. And look, as changes come up with Thriving Kids and things like that, I think we'll definitely need to catch up again and see how that's going to change things for families moving forward. NDIS is an ever evolving beast. There's always going to be something to talk about, I feel.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really good place if anybody is going, think I need a support worker for my family member, and obviously particularly for a child. This is a great place for people to start to get some information and understand that world and what it's like and how to access somebody. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
for having
everything
me.
that you've
Thank you
provided.
so much for having me. It's been such a fun conversation.
I try and keep it fun. Like if I wanted to listen to something or watch something about a subject that can be difficult to talk about because it's emotive, it's not super engaging for every person. I understand that, but if we can keep it fun and real, it's way more interesting.
It's true.
Definitely once that Thriving Kids piece comes out to talk about how that will impact some support workers and
Very interesting.
at those services moving forward. So thank you to everybody for watching today. We're really, really stoked that we had Trent with us. Care Agency Services, make sure you look it up. And if you need support, you need to apply to the NDIS. Make sure you follow those standard procedures to get the support that you need. And until the next time, we'll see you soon.